All right.
Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Give praises to Jehovah, from whom all blessing and knowledge will flow. Blessing and knowledge will flow. The Village Talk Show, dedicating to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us in realizing our dream at any age, any point, starting from today, day. Success. Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Success is not spoken, it is done. Success is done. Come on now. The Village Talk Show. Talk Show. The Village Talk Show.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Good evening, John. How are you?
Hey, Doc. How you doing, Doc?
Great. Want to give a super shout out to our producer, Andre Doman. Congratulations. Today is a big day for him and his family. So again, congrats to Andre Doman. That's all.
Oh, also a shout out to our departed Roger Daly's wife, Garcia. A little shout out for her birthday. Make sure we shout her out.
June
many
30th,
more.
Yes.
Yeah, many more. So what's going on, Doc?
I am here enjoying this 100 and plus weather out here. Are you enjoying it? I am. Surely I am.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah. Okay, we all enjoying it. Yep.
Okay, I asked for summer. Summer came. Yes.
So yeah, sure did. Can't complain at all.
I'll take this over snow any day.
I know. We got a special guest coming on tonight, right?
We do. Listeners, please tune in. Call a friend. Call everybody. Tonight we're going to be discussing immigration with everything that happened recently as of last week, Thursday. We want to make sure you all are informed on what to do, how to do, questions. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, anything at all in regards to immigration, perfect. We have extraordinary attorney who will be on this evening, and I cannot wait for him to come on and join us. So yeah, a lot's going on.
A lot of things came down in the Supreme Court to dealing with the trans issue, dealing with the birthright issue, temporary protective status of Haitians and Syrians, which has an impact to other groups, which was very interesting. The whole with respect to the transgender, which are giving the authority back to states to be able to deal with that issue. Birthright citizenship, in a 6-3 decision. Very interesting that that will stay as is. But it's very interesting. What doesn't amaze me? Clarence Thomas never amazes me, man. Never amazes me.
I was disappointed, but you know what? Like you said, it does not surprise you. I'm kind of happy that they cited the right way, because here it is. What are you gonna say? Hey, somebody has a child here. No, they're not American. They are wherever their parents came from, and that's it. Yes, we will always be whatever our parents, a combination of wherever our parents came from, but wherever you are born, you are.
You know, it's interesting. You listen to some of the commentaries, especially on the conservative talk shows. They
Mhm.
just talk about how they come to this country and they drain the resources and all this other stuff. There are those who have been instrumental in advancing technology and workforce in our community. They always talk about the negatives. They never want to talk about the positives of those individuals who, although their parents may be here legally, but they were born here and they have excelled. You know, I look at the congressman. You know, although he lost his race, Congressman Espaillat, he came here illegally, and he became a congressman.
Mhm.
So the right wing will always find something negative with respect to this, and this is this is the problem that I see with us. It's either, it's either one side or the other side. There's really never any common ground.
That is true. That is true. You have to pick a side. Why? Why should you? You're either one extreme or you're the far extreme. Never in
And
the
if
middle.
and if you don't agree with me, then
You're my
I'm going to cancel. Yeah, you're my enemy.
enemy. Which is sad because the thing is politics, but um, to take it to the extent where people are getting killed, they're getting threatened. It's disheartening because it's as though we are reversing everything we fought so hard to get to, and it's there's no words for it. Actually, no words for it at all. Um, I also was reading about, so our president, if things doesn't go his way, he wants to reverse and cancel and do things until it is his way. For example, he authorized the review and disclassification of records related to the investigation of the 2020 election,
Right?
and um, they want to toss it out. They want to declassify the election, toss it out. So my question is, when I'm thinking of the next president that come along and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't believe that this person's election was fair and honest, and it was cheated on." Will Congress and everyone else agree and say yes? Or is this just for one individual that all rules must change?
Hmm.
So I'm thinking of the after effect of all these changes that they have just put in place, and what impact will it have with the next person?
Yeah, but then it all depends how it's put into place. Because sometimes if these are executive order decisions, the next person can
Reverse.
eliminate, reverse that, and then implement what they want to implement. So, I mean, like I tell whether you're a Democrat or Republican, always remember, uh, just remember what goes around comes around. So you got to
Mm,
be careful what you ask for and what you do, and you need to treat everybody fairly.
mm-hmm,
This is just politics is not what it is, what it used to be. There's no camaraderie. We maybe disagree on things,
mm-hmm,
on a policy issue, but it has gotten so extreme now. It's just like we can't get together and discuss this because we have to worry about you know, whether we're looked upon as weak or currying to the other side. There's no dialogue between colleagues no more. No dialogue.
mm-hmm.
It's everything's the extreme politics. You talk about this year we're celebrating 200 our 250th anniversary, and sometimes you think about is this is what the founding fathers really were looking at,
Hmm.
and you know, during that period of time is different from now. Things have evolved, society has evolved. So the laws that were passed in or the constitution that were written at that point in time, they all at some point in time have to be looked at again because the circumstances and times have changed to adopt this legislative piece. But we're so busy just fighting amongst one another, we can't put legislation together. So that's why the president is forced to do certain executive orders. And
Hmm.
then, if there's an issue, then, Supreme Court has to come into play on these things because the legislature fails to do what their responsibility is. No legislator wants to touch the issue of immigration. That's like,
But
that's
they
like a
did.
taboo.
But they did. That's the thing. Nobody want to touch it, but they have.
They have via these executive orders. They have not put
Mm,
forth any legislation. They haven't put any forth any legislation that has been signed to impact that. Not that I know of.
hmm. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Just want to give a shout out to Benev. Good evening, Mr. Benev. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Very, very exciting conversation on immigration this evening. So I would say take out your notebooks and if you have questions, write it down, put it in the chat,
Hmm.
and go from there. Because what people don't understand is what they do to one country, what they
Yep.
do to one set of individuals, what they do to your group, they're gonna do to
Right.
my group.
Yep.
So there's no, oh, it's just because of them. There's none of that. Because guess what? Once they start discriminating, once they start um, saying that, hey, that group is not good enough, or that group is not, when it is, just wait for your turn. It's coming. And a lot of people, I would say, prior didn't take it seriously. Oh no, it doesn't impact me. It doesn't impact me. It just impact this group. So why should I speak up? Why should I say something? Why should I fight with them? And unfortunately, when you do that, you're next. Hey Chris,
Hey, Chris.
how are you?
Evening, guys. Good evening.
Good evening. So there is power in getting together and fighting for each other. There's strength in that. Because guess what? If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for everything. And you're going to fall apart. They're going to start pinning you against each other. And guess
Right.
what? We bleed the same. We do. It still come out the same color. We are
Hmm.
still the same.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. I don't know. How are you, Chris?
I am excellent. I actually just returned from a visit to Florida, so I'm
A little tan?
a little and refreshed and excited to be back.
Okay.
So you bought that heat wave back with you, huh?
I did. It's actually, I was checking just because I thought it would be funny. I was checking to see what the weather was down in Florida. And it's probably about 15, 16 degrees cooler in Florida than it is here in New York.
Interesting. Interesting.
Hey, you know what? Also, man, my condolences go out to those in Venezuela.
Oh my
That earthquake,
goodness.
man. And the numbers just keep rising and rising and rising, man.
Yeah. That it's very unfortunate because they mentioned that there's a group of individuals that they deported back to Venezuela. So as soon as they landed, the earthquake happened. So
Mm.
they can't even account for those individuals that actually just
Wow.
landed and the earthquake, So it's heart-wrenching. You know, when you deport a group of people who actually might have not been in the country for years, and you send them back in regards to, hey, you know what, let's just deport them or whatever. What is the plan? When they
Right.
land, where do they go?
Right.
And if they don't have no place to go and natural disaster happen, then what? So I don't know, in the decision making and in things happening the way that it has been, it's been really, really traumatic, I would say. Really, really traumatic. So yeah. So I think Taylor Swift brought the heat. I think
Yeah,
she
they're supposed to be getting married. I don't understand this. I don't understand. They're supposed to be getting married this weekend, or is this just?
yes, supposed to be getting married. I
In
think
Madison Square Garden, right? Or is it?
tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow.
I don't. I don't understand.
How do you
Why
rent out
would you?
Madison Square Garden?
And why would you get? I don't understand. I don't. Is Are we sure it's a wedding, or we're speculating? I thought maybe it might want to be a private ceremony, not the
They're having a
garden.
dinner party tonight.
A what?
The dinner party tonight.
Yeah, Joanne, why aren't you there? Weren't you invited?
Aren't you a Swiftie?
No, I'm not.
You're not a Swiftie. So yeah, Chris, we got a special guest coming on tonight to discuss these decisions that came down from the Supreme Court regarding birthright citizenship, and also the elimination of the temporary status for Haitians and Syrians, which can have a broad effect on other groups. So we were able to have a special guest tonight to talk about that, listeners, because we think this is vitally important. Because even in the business that I do now, we have been impacted by that. A couple of people that work for us, they have that temporary status, and now, they are at this point in time, in limbo with respect to what to do. In this whole thing, do they report? Do they go into the shadows and wait to see if there's another administration come along to change those things? So this is what's going to happen. A lot of people are going to go into the shadows, and this is what so far has happened. I've experienced it personally with a couple of our employees at this point in time. Once the decision came down, I haven't seen them since then.
But the court decision was striking down Trump's challenge.
That's the birth. That's the
Birthright.
birthright citizen.
Yeah.
But this other one was temporary status, which
Gotcha.
eliminated temporary status for the Haitians and also Syrians. But
Okay.
then all those other groups that he had on a list could be impacted also. So it's just sad at this point in time. People who have been here for decades, who have earned degrees, who have done well, now are in limbo, don't know what to do. Who have
Right. And
families who depend on them.
they've been paying taxes too.
Yes, I've been paying taxes, correct. I've been paying taxes. So this is the impact, listeners, this is the impact uh this is the impact voting has. And these are the policy decisions that can be made. And if we don't get out and participate in elections, these are the consequences that will happen. And President Trump told everyone this is what he was going to do, and I guess people didn't believe him. and the numbers that should have came out didn't come out. If they disagreed with that. So at this point in time, because Congress is not going to touch this issue of immigration, uh, and the courts courts don't really want to deal with it, but it's put in their laps because the legislature on the federal side fails to deal with it. So it really has a profound impact upon communities, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you on getting out there to vote and making sure that our voices are heard. Because too many times we don't show up to vote.
Well, I mean, you can look at this past election. I think last week, the totals that came out in the primary were were, were abysmal. And as a result, we saw that the Democratic Socialists are well organized, and they were able to pull their people out, uh, and made a difference. A lot of incumbents lost their election.
Yeah, that was surprising. That was very, very surprising.
I
Um,
mean, to some it wasn't surprising. To others, it wasn't as surprising because the Democratic Socialists are they have a good organization. Uh, but my question is that you know it's one thing to indicate what you want to do, what should be done. It's another thing to govern when you got to govern amongst your colleagues, and with their ideology, you know, I don't know if they can win in swing states. The swing states are important for us to get into the majority because you can you can throw the rock and then hide your hand because you have no responsibility. Nothing's going to happen. But the point is, it's going to come to the day is, you want to be in a position where things can happen. And in order for that to happen, you're going to have to dialogue with some other colleagues who oppose your ideology, but you got to find some common ground in order to get the results that you need and the resources that you need for your constituency. And I think what happened, the effectiveness of the Democratic Socialists is that they harp on the ideal of affordability, and that tugs at the heartstrings of people. If I can't be able to afford to do certain things, so then they look at the elected officials and say, what have you done for me in order for me to be able to live? And you know what what's important is, Chris, is that you know they forget, some of our colleagues, some of our elected officials get all politics is local, and you have to take care of people's local issues. Everything from street lights to speed bumps to potholes to helping children get into schools. Those are the things that impact families on daily lives. Having a food pantry, having job fairs for people to get jobs. This is how constituents will reward you by putting you back in the office, as long as they feel they can go to someone's office and they are going not only listen to me, but do their best to assist me. So this is something that you know the question is now with what's happening is whether or not this group is going to be able to provide what they're saying. A big
I'm
issue.
gonna bring on our guest. So
You're gonna
just
bring on our guest? Okay.
yes, I was behind the scene trying to help him out. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry I interrupted you, John.
Good
But
evening, everyone.
No problem. Good evening. Good evening.
good evening, Attorney Gerald. It is so nice to meet you virtually.
Yes.
This is our crew. I am Dr. Joanne Bryant. We have Mr. John Sampson, and we have Mr. Christopher Liu, who is here with us. And we actually are excited to have you on this evening. So please introduce yourself to our listeners so that they can fall in love with you as much as we actually are.
Well, it is a wonderful, wonderful thing to be on with you this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to talk and spread love and spread information. You know, I don't want to be too religious, but my people will perish or shall perish for lack of information, right? And so that's I don't think you even have to be too religious to understand the significance of that. And so, you know, when my parents brought me here from Ghana, West Africa, I think the trajectory of my life had changed, and I'm hoping that the knowledge that I have been able to impart in my 25 years of practicing law has also changed the trajectory, not only of the individual clients, but of my community and the people that they have touched. And so nothing makes me happier than to be amongst my people, spreading information and knowledge, because certainly nothing else will get us there, right? I think we've always been supportive of people getting an education because they can't take it away from you. And so even when we're not talking about certifications and degrees, once you understand the way the immigration system works or how the law works, they can't take that away from you. And you approach your work and your life in a different manner when you know, rather than guessing and hypothesizing. So I am very, very excited to be here with you all to have the discussions, because I think our community needs to have really intelligent questions about what's going on, because there's pretty historic stuff happening at the Supreme Court level as it relates to the law. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. We thank you for coming on. So I guess we just want to get right into it. You know, the Supreme Court came down with two decisions dealing with birthright citizenship and the other one dealing with temporary status. So maybe if you want to go into both of those, or just the impact they would have on those immigrants.
Right. Let me take them in the reverse order, right? Just because I think it's also part of the socio-political mechanisms or machinations of the regime that we are living under currently. So I want to start with birthright citizenship because of the fact that the President of the United States was able to get something that for 120 years or so has been settled law that hasn't been up for debate. The fact that the President of the United States was able to get an issue like this settled at a Supreme Court level speaks to something very significant. Okay. When the purpose is to be mean, when the purpose is to shed doubt on who you are and what you are, then even the idea that this issue goes all the way to the Supreme Court is problematic, right? And so the Supreme Court came back, like most of us thought and understood, that the 14th Amendment gave every person who was born in the United States the status of citizenship, right? And they did that in a 6-3 decision in which Clarence Thomas as well as Alito were dissentents, opinions, stating that they didn't
And
agree.
Gorsuch also.
Right. And so stating they didn't agree, arguing in language that I think most people would call veiled racism. The language of people pouring into the country, people invading, a host of terms that rightfully so, commentators have discussed, at least with Alito. He's a grandson of an immigrant from Italy, and that much of his historical background relates to the mistreatment of Italians as Catholics in a Protestant country called America that didn't want him and said they would never assimilate with American society, and talk about them in ways that they're now talking about this current group of immigrants. And so the idea that the president was able to take this issue, which we thought was settled, and take it all the way to the Supreme Court and actually get 3 votes saying that they agree with him, that there is some type of limit to who can be a citizen, is problematic in and of itself, because some of those things should not be up for debate. And the idea that we could have a conversation that is the equivalent of the question of, is 2 + 2 4? If that is an issue that can be taken up to the Supreme Court, we have big problems. And I think people aren't taking it in because he created such a hysteria by, allowing it. The decisions at the lower court level, where he first started his executive order litigation, were so clear. 30 pages, 40 pages a judge would take to state the history of the 14th Amendment and the idea that this question of whether or not a person born in the United States is a U.S. citizen, to dismiss it offhand, that this wasn't even an issue. But the idea that they kept on appealing it and kept people in limbo and kept people wondering whether or not this possibly could get overturned is a level of hysteria that shouldn't be in the law, right? Because we as lawyers, we like things nice and slow. So for example, in Brown v. Board of Education, a phrase that people don't catch, the layperson wouldn't catch, was the phrase that the court used talking about the integration of public school education should be done with all deliberate speed. And so, lawyers are wordsmiths, and we haggle over words. We don't just use them willy-nilly, right? And so when the court used the word all deliberate speed, we know that the word deliberate and speed don't actually really go together, because it talks about thinking about something, deliberating over something. And so that created a slow path at which the supposed integration of public schools was to happen. And so even today, we don't see the type of integration of public schools. And that can be found in the language of the Supreme Court. And so when we get to the point where the lower court, a trial court, has already said the executive order is not constitutional, then an appellate court has said the executive order can't go into effect, it's unconstitutional. Many of us would have said, this is not a case that the Supreme Court should even accept. They should dismiss what we call certiorari, which is a petition to have your case heard at the Supreme Court level. They should dismiss it at that point, and we shouldn't even debate it. So it was a disappointment that the Supreme Court agreed to take the case, to hear the case, and to have this debate where the president's solicitor general started to tell us about the idea that phrases in the 14th Amendment speak to the jurisdiction of, right? It talks about the idea.
I think, if I want to just interject into that, counsel, is I think, one of my thought processes is I think the Supreme Court picked it up because they really just wanted to make a final determination on this, because as you know, it's just too much confusion going in the state, and this is what the purpose was, to create the confusion, create the hysteria, so people can like, oh my god, what am I going to do? So I think, because I'm interested, and I don't know who was the Supreme Court judge that agreed to pick it up, and that's something I would like to know.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top, but it's out of 9, you only need 4. You don't need 5. So you got the 3 that dissented for sure, and then you probably have one more. whether that is Roberts or who wound up making the decision, or but I would tell you that as a lawyer, I would easily make the argument that the government appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court denied certiorari, and therefore they said this wasn't up for debate. There was no clear question. And so as much as you think they took it to put it to bed, no, I would say it was already in bed. It should never have been woken up again. And so that's kind of our feeling. So that's the first case. And I say that to say to you that I'm doing it in the reverse because of the fact that the Haitian TPS case is a scenario in which people are now being mollified in regards to the question of Trump and his immigration policies, meaning the Supreme Court wants it to look like they aren't just doing everything that the president wants because they went against him in this decision, when in fact they should have never taken the case at all. So the ability to try to argue, no, we're impartial. We don't just do everything the president wants. We are very much standing up to him. They could say that on a case that really should have never come to them. And so we are people who were ready to say after the Haiti TPS case, right, on the 25th, they're supposed to be mollified now. They're supposed to walk back any language or any criticism or any critique that suggests that the Supreme Court is afraid to challenge the president because of the fact that he put so many of them on the Supreme Court. So it, to me, was part and parcel of the plan, was that, hey, you can't say that we're in the bag for the president. We denied him on his executive order abolishing birthright citizenship. But that to me is a very low bar. And so let me get into the question of temporary protected status. Temporary protected status is a law that is created by Congress for the purposes of issuing temporary residency permits for individuals from countries who have suffered from natural disasters and other types of emergencies. In the case of the Haitian people, they have been in a decades-long emergency that TPS has continued to be renewed for years and years and years. Not almost as recently is they had a earthquake that obviously devastated the country, and I believe that's where the last one was. And then the president of the country was assassinated. So it's been continuous, right? So fall of this disrepair, where gangs were taking over, where people were afraid to go to the post office, where government functions weren't working, where gangs had complete control over.
They still do.
Certain portions of Haiti, right? Where people just, the gangs are now the municipality, right? And so the idea that Haitians were being given the opportunity to stay here for as long as they have certainly fit the criteria. And the idea that Biden had given them an extension that would have lasted them for another 3 or 4 years, for that to be pulled out from underneath them, that was why the not-for-profit organizations sued the president to say, you can't pull the rug out from people. They were relying on the last president's position. And so they got a stay of deportation or instituting of the withdrawal of TPS from the court. And so they raised the issue that there was no reasonable basis to take away TPS, and it was arbitrary and capricious, which really means somebody doing it just to be mean, just to be spiteful, right, in terms of legal terms. And so that became the issue where the stay wanted to get the stay lifted so they could continue with the removal of TPS work permits and authorization to stay here based on the fact that the president had changed his mind and pretty much or reversed everything that Biden had done for certain groups of people with TPS. And so that is the fact that the Supreme Court has said that the president has the right, or the executive branch has the right, to overturn a previously given benefit, and that it's beyond judicial review, suggesting that people don't even have the right to appeal to the court, that there's something nefarious going on, there's something wrong going on, and therefore the decision of the executive branch to take away my benefit has to be looked over by a judge. And in this case, the Supreme Court did not agree with the petitioners and argued that the TPS could be taken away by the executive almost at any time. And to me, that was a disgrace. That was the mockery, right? And so rather than people jumping up and down and hitting the streets based on that, they gave you the follow-up, which was the birthright citizenship, to try to mollify people. But truth be told, it is unprecedented that the president can say that people are eating cats and dogs, then take away their temporary protected status, and no one would be able to challenge the idea that he doesn't have a real basis to take this benefit away from the people. He's doing this out of maliciousness. He's doing this out of anger, out of meanness to this group of people. Nobody can challenge that. And to me, that's something to really protest and raise a loud voice about. But because of the,
people he has on the bench.
Yeah, but the strategy, right? I think what was his advisor's name? He said it's called the Blitz. What did he say? He just wants
Steve. What's his name?
Steve Bannon. There you go.
No, not Steve Bannon. The other one. Not Steve Bannon. The other one.
Oh, his young. His advisor on immigration from
Steve. Yeah, exactly. Stephen Miller.
Right. And so their position was they were going to throw as much at us as possible, and some of the stuff was going to get through, and others might get caught by the other branches of government. And that, to me, is what this is. As many things as we can take away, as many rights as we can restrict, as many policies as we can change without actual proper authority or good basis, we're going to try to go for it and let them try to stop all of it. Even if they can't, even if they don't stop the ones we really want, or the egregious ones, we'll get some other ones through. And I really think that's the strategy. So that's kind of where I want people to focus their attention, is this idea that, a president or an executive can target a certain group of people and say that the benefits they received, they're not entitled to anymore, just because, without any basis.
And this was a 6-3 decision.
Another 6-3 decision, which primarily went on party lines, right? So that Kagan and Jackson and the other democratically appointed justices were the only people who dissented from that decision.
And it just goes back to, counsel, it goes back to the importance of controlling the Supreme Court. And this is something that we, back when the president ran the first time, we neglected to realize it, the importance of the Supreme Court and the impact it could have.
But they have blocked Obama from actually
appointing
someone. Yeah.
Right.
So
sure.
Yeah, I agree, but there's certain things that Obama could have done also with them with respect to that. You know what I'm saying?
Obama Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the notorious RBG.
Yes.
Yes.
She had the opportunity to retire from the bench and give a Democratic president the opportunity to appoint a new justice when the House was under the control of the Democrats. But she wanted to continue to work, and then she wound up dying. And as much as people sent her vitamins and she was trying to do anything to keep her alive for as long as possible, she wound up dying in the presidency of Trump, who replaced her with an ultra-right conservative, somebody young enough to give us 40 or 50 years of these.
Kavanaugh.
So that was one of the issues in terms of
or Barrett. Kavanaugh or Barrett. One, I forgot. I think it was only Barrett.
Yeah. So
My
But
question,
Barrett goes, you know, Barrett, her ideology is very, you know, she's not always with all the conservatives all the time.
But do you know one of the justices has adopted children from Haiti, and she also voted to
That's Coney Barrett. That's, yep, Coney Barrett. Yep.
right.
but
So
she
Yeah.
voted with them.
she voted with
Yeah.
them.
So you adopt kids from Haiti, but then you go and vote against Haiti.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So
Children might turn
So,
around and
so,
say they're
so,
not Haitian.
yeah, I know. So, counsel, what's the impact upon those in right now who have this temporary
because some
status? What's
people
the
were told
impact?
already that they can
Yeah,
no longer work as of the 30th of June. Some
right.
people
Yeah, 'cause
have papers.
I have been
So
impacted by it already with a couple of my employees. Yes.
Yeah.
so
So
so the TPS, they were not renewing work authorizations based on TPS for a lot of people. And what was happening was they were being told that their temporary protected status and their work authorization were automatically renewed for another 540 days, but they weren't actually printing cards and sending it to them. So it was really by fiat. Another example of how arbitrary and capricious the
So
government
explain
is
that. Like,
running.
can you repeat that again so people understand that point?
yeah, because some people were told on the 30th that they no longer have a job.
Right. Well, that's the issue, is that the work authorization, which would be a physical card that would say you're eligible to work for the next 2 years, right, was never provided to them. They were given an automatic stay that they were able to have their authorization to work extended. It's almost like you have a driver's license, but you leave it, right? The officer stops you. Are you a driver or are you not? Do you have permission from a state to be a driver? You could say yes, but you don't have any evidence of it. And so that becomes the challenge, right? Without evidence of your status, how then do you assert your rights? And so that you left your driver's license at home, yeah, you know that this situation could go left quite quickly.
So I just want to understand decision that just came down, so our listeners understand. Those on temporary status, meaning that, you know what, you no longer, that has been suspended, that has been terminated.
Right.
You're not going to get an actual card. However, you have a certain amount of days. Is that correct? A certain amount of days to continue to working, but after that, it's over.
Right. Well, see, because everybody got theirs at the time they got it, so it's a question of when it's supposed to expire. So even though you never physically got the card, you do have a date final that it's supposed to expire, and you're not going to be able to renew it at that point.
So what is the date? That's
everyone has a different date, right? But the Trump administration may revoke yours earlier and tell you that even what you received before is no longer good. So you can expect to start getting those in the mail.
But they can't do that. They cannot revoke it. They can't. I don't believe they can revoke it. If you have the work permit, whatever it is, for 540 days, right? And you work 300 days, and the Supreme Court decision just came back, it's temporary status. The question is, the balance of that time, am I still entitled to the balance of that time? And then after that, it's over with.
Usually, by regular operation of law, you would have the balance of the time. But if you get a letter from them, they're telling you that they're cutting your balance. Now, that might create another litigation. You might have a not-for-profit organization who actually tries to sue to get you to do, the balance of whatever days you have.
So
left.
the question, I think the question is does this decision prospective or retroactive? Because if it's retroactive, it has to be stated in the legislation, or is it going prospectively, like those people who don't have the work permit or whose work permit is expiring, it's over with once that the expiration have reached expiration. So I think that's the confusing part.
And
Whether
the
this
people
is
And the people who have their application for renewal of their TPS, that's going to be denied. So you don't even have to
That's
wait.
going to be denied. Yes, that's going to be
gonna
denied.
Can you lose your job? Like people were told on June 30th, no longer come to work.
Well, listen, it's not a situation where you can really fight it, right? Because most you're going to have states that are employers have the ability to fire you for any reason, and the fact that you don't have prospectively authorization to work in the future, they're not going to wait for every single person's date to actually come up, right? So you bring your paperwork and show the date that you're supposed to your work permit is supposed to expire, and they let you stay on until that date. No, they could easily say all the people who are working on that basis. So that when you see a work authorization, it has these codes on it: A19, C25, and it's
So I would challenge that. I would definitely challenge that. I
So
would
if you got
challenge that.
fired, or if they told you no longer you have employment and you have a 401k, you have all this time and things invested in it, what happened to what happens? Where's the money? Where
You still
is
get your 401. You still get your 401k, Doc.
I don't
They can't
know.
take that.
Do you still
No,
get
they
that?
can't.
What
You still
about
get your money.
vacation days and things like that? What
they
do
have
you
to
do
pay you
if-
out. Right. Those are
Okay.
labor and employment questions. Those are
Right.
the things that your state, even individually, as well as some federal coverage on those questions about what it is that you're entitled to at the time of separation from your employer. But definitely, I would tell, I've been trying to tell many, many Haitians and other TPS holders that they needed to go ahead, if they had a fear of returning back to Haiti, to file for asylum and have their day in court and try to explain why they in particular are afraid to go back to their country.
Is it
Right?
too late to
General
do that?
crime. Well, I would tell you no. There are people who would say, oh, in order to apply for asylum, you must apply for asylum within 1 year of the date you enter the United States. But I would argue on my client's behalf that because of the fact that they had temporary protected status, that the 1 year time frame had been
Told.
Okay.
Right, told.
And so that told world is like the clock stops. You're frozen and your time is not expiring. And so generally they say within a reasonable period of the time when the law changes and you now realize you will potentially be deported or removed, you have the right to file your asylum application at that point.
So people can still do that now.
They can still do it now, because Lord knows I would rather put my application in and fight over whether or not I should be told or not, rather than not putting it in and waiting for ICE to pick me up.
Okay,
Right.
You have a question here. I heard 30% of TPS own homes. What happened to their properties?
All right. And I see we got Mr. Liu on the screen. And so what I talk to people about is putting homes in trust, having things already set up. Listen, I like America. I love America, but it's not the only Coca-Cola in the desert. And so we've got to be prepared. Whether we're staying or whether we're going, we've got to be prepared. And so what does that mean? That means getting with a professional to fight and get you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional years in the court system fighting for your asylum, right? That's one. Then in that meantime, you can use a professional to put your home in trust. I don't know if your children are old enough to begin to take care of those things, or you have a family member who's in a position to take care of your kids. You can put it in trust and have the income come to your children. It's a whole different set of circumstances that you have to kind of game out in terms of how you want to deal with the potential departure. But definitely you should go about the fight to try to stay here and make sure that you are, because hey, Mr. Trump is only going to be here for another 2.5 years. So you don't know that the next president would just reverse everything he did.
Right.
So if you fight and you put your stuff in trust, you know that if your fight doesn't work, you have something prepared. If it does work and you win, beautiful. And if you just hold out, right, long enough, there may be a new president, a new administration that puts you in a position you were before, and let's say reinstates your TPS or doesn't count your days as unlawful presence. Because I think you have to get ready for letters that come out. They say they're fining people almost $1,000 a day for every day you stay after you've been ordered to leave. Therefore, you should be prepared for that heart-stopping letter that says something like, you owe the United States government $750,000 because we calculated $1,000 a day and you've been here for X amount of days over the time period that we told you to leave. And so I want you to know that in our office, we fight those as well and keep those cases pending so that hopefully a more reasonable administration will come to power and will void out those types of draconian.
Your counsel, I like the argument that you talked about whether the asylum now to move for asylum and whether that statute was told. You know, that's a interesting issue there. And also, what's an interesting and also another issue is whether or not, okay, fine, this decision came down. Is the application retroactive or is it prospective? Meaning that those people who still have a remainder left on their temporary status, they should be able to go to the end of the term, and then at that point in time, those which are pending, I can understand. Those are terminated, but those who are already in the middle of it, is the application, does it void it retroactively?
Right. So I would tell you this: the actual, so you'll see on a work authorization, not like a social security card will say not valid unless it has a valid work authorization, right? So the idea is that they are saying even if you have the physical card, you're not supposed to use it. You're not supposed to apply for anything when your case is denied, right? So you could have had a work authorization and then your case is denied. And you usually get 30 to 60 days to appeal the decision. And if you fail to appeal, your decision becomes final. Therefore, at that point, the work authorization, even though it may be physically in your hand, is supposed to be void in absentio. Okay. But if your case is still pending, even though you lost at the first level, on appeal, your case could be still good, and therefore your work authorization is still good.
I like
so
that.
There's multiple layers to this thing. This isn't the type of thing that people should try to do
yourself. Yes, you
it's
cannot.
Not that type of party, okay?
What about students? So that's my question. Because of the TPS, how does this impact students? And we're talking about young students. We're talking about students in college. All of that. How does that impact?
That's going to be a state-by-state thing. In New York, no matter what your immigration status is, they're supposed to educate you. You're not supposed to have any problems. Same thing in New Jersey, but I couldn't go state by state in the 50 states. I'd have to look up your state to kind of give you an understanding of whether or not the government, your local government, which is controlling your school, your child's school, has the right to try to put you out because you don't have any status. But here in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, most of the Northeast, none of those states would ever try to remove your child because they were TPS, got denied or revoked.
Okay. College students, the same thing as well, correct?
Well, that's a little bit different, right? Because here in New York, they have children who are supposed to be given that benefit, but you're an adult after you're over 18. So that's going to be the other challenge for the college students as it relates to legal status. But there are certainly people in the City University of New York system who don't have any status. They just have to pay full freight. They're going to get no financial aid, no benefits, etc.
And what happened to DACA? Because that went silent for a while. And what happened to that? Because we haven't heard anything about that.
Right. The Supreme Court has not ruled on the DACA issue. So at this point, DACA still remains. They were supposed to come back to end the DACA program. The process by which they were trying to end the DACA program originally was found to be unconstitutional and lacked the procedural safeguards that are necessary when the government stops a program in the middle. So that's where we stand, is waiting for the administration to come back with a different version of getting rid of DACA. So since they haven't, we just wait and see, right? It's one of those terrible scenarios of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Okay. There's a question here. How is the $1,000 fine? I'm sorry. How is the $1,000 fine this legal? This is crazy and very sad. My 11-year-old has friends who relocated to Canada. Now she's asking to move to Canada. A lot of people self-deported or relocate somewhere.
Sure.
So,
if you have talent, Canada is a wonderful place. There's no doubt about the types of benefits they're providing in terms of a very quick work authorization process, resettlement type of incentives, help with placement. There's quite a bit of programs for people in the healthcare industry and other industries that are looking for people who don't have options here in the United States. That's why this deportation thing really doesn't make sense for the United States economy. As we see our society getting older, home health aides and those who serve the seniors are going to be essential to keeping America going. And the idea of deporting them just doesn't make much sense to me. But when you get the immigration fervor and people want to blame everyone for it, then I think people leave the realm of logic and reasoning and go with, whatever makes me feel better, whatever makes me think that my condition is going to be better. The problem is that these people will wind up benefiting, collecting your money, getting your support, having power, potentially crystallizing their power before you wake up and realize we've done everything they said. We stopped the border. We've kicked all these people out. And the United States is no better for it. My life is not better for it. And that's the challenge, is by that time, what's going to happen? So I would even give you the example of the big, beautiful bill. It has provisions in it that are only set to go into place in January of next year. Why? Because November is the election. So the idea is that if the negative parts of the big, beautiful bill don't go in effect till January, you would not have actually felt the ramifications, and therefore you may not be voting based on what they are doing. You're voting based on what part of the big, beautiful bill has affected you up until this point. And so that's a trick that politicians can use, where they set themselves up to be reelected before the negative parts of their legislation go into effect. So come January 1, you'll see that the Medicaid and Medicare subsidies are significantly reduced. You'll see that the funding in different areas will be significantly reduced, and therefore you will have voted the way you voted without the benefit of knowing that these things were coming down the hill. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, I want to touch a topic in regards to ICE. Okay. So, for example, I remember in February, they shut DMV down completely to revamp and to upgrade or whatever. So now a lot of people who have TPS or temporary status or whatever, might have a driver's license or whatever. So when they shut down the DMV, and now you're driving on the highway, they said, hey, TPS is gone, blah, 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 you need to be deported. How does that affect? And you get pulled over by ICE. What should you do?
Well, this is a difficult one in that we know what you should do, whether or not it'll work. So like in my office, we have an app where you press the app and it automatically rings me, and it automatically starts recording the interaction for you. So I'm getting to hear everything that the officer is saying and doing. I am getting your actual location through GPS, and I'll know where you are in the system. So generally we say that you do have the right to remain silent. You don't have to give them any information. You barely even have to talk. So I can give you a card that allows you to give my information to them rather than having to talk to them. Why do we talk about speaking, right? Is because under dicta in a case, one of the Supreme Court justices talked about being in a high crime or high immigrant area, being involved in a profession that lots of undocumented people are involved in, and speaking with an accent. And so those are the things that were supposed to not be probable cause because they have seemed to be about race and ethnicity. And that's what we've thought for so long. But when a Supreme Court justice says that it's a mere inconvenience for those who have citizenship and a green card, and that these factors should be, then it puts into question, right, whether or not that's a basis. And so rather than test that out, we would rather you not say a word to them, hand them the card, and let them try to look up. If they cannot find a reasonable basis to stop you, a reasonable basis to believe that you have no documentation and you're unlawfully in the United States, you don't have, they should let you go. So generally we talk about, am I being detained or am I free to go? Right? That's usually the conversation that we have when we talk about stops. But obviously,
if you are detained, what happened to your property?
Yeah, they generally don't even give you a chance, right? I think we've all seen the videos of ICE leaving your car in the middle of the street, wherever they pulled you over, that sometimes your stuff isn't able to take with you. Some of the officers can be decent and give you a chance to call a relative to come to your car and take your car away. But otherwise, it's not unheard of your car and all your valuables to be left inside the vehicle. But I, again, implore people to have their backup plan in terms of who are you calling, who's going to pick up your kids, who's going to notify the school, what is your plan for your children's care, what about your stuff in terms of who knows the passwords to your bank account. You want them to pay for your lawyer, give them your PIN so they can get into the bank account and get money to pay for your defense. Otherwise, you'll wind up being in a situation where you can't get access to your funding, your money, and you don't have a fair shot to fight your case. So you want to have all of these things prepared and thought about way in advance.
What if you get deported? So what happened to your things?
Right. So if you don't have a plan, you haven't put your things in trust, then there's a couple of things. So bank accounts, they call a sheet. A sheet is when the state takes over. I don't know if you guys, like in New York State, they have this phone number you call for money that you could have left in a bank account and forgotten.
Yeah, that's with the comptroller, state controllers. Yes.
So your accounts, that's what happens to them. Some of them, I hope you have online accounts and you can transfer to the bank of the bank in your country, so you can wire the funds from there to your new bank account. But
what are some of the banks in different countries that, because not every bank transfers over?
Right.
That's another thing.
Sure. We'd have to do it on a country by country basis. Obviously, I have a list of countries that are banks that do business in certain countries that we can talk about, and we can give you a list of banks to kind of start to transfer your stuff with. From everything from the Dominican Republic to Jamaica to St. Lucia, quite a few different banks that you can start to transfer your assets there. So the process is really about moving your things in a very orderly fashion so that you have access to it, because you might need to start your life back depending on how long you've been away. So you need to get it, and you don't want to be in a situation where you're selling all your assets at a fire sale so that you wind up getting pennies on the dollar rather than the full 100% value of whatever it is that you've accumulated. So definitely you want to make sure that you have done that work of making the transfers way before anything happens. And if we're successful, you can transfer everything back.
Now, there's a question here. Do you think an apartheid system will ever be in the USA?
I don't think it's necessary. What they've done with redlining and other forms of financial coercion, it kind of does it already, right? The segregation that is created by housing stock, right? And that right now, I think it's 1/20th of an average household income. The black household income in America is 1/20th of their white counterpart, and so it seems very difficult if that's the difference, the gap, the racial wealth gap. It's very difficult for you to live in proximity to other people, right? And so that becomes the challenge in terms of real cohesion or real mixing of the communities. And so that's going to be the scenario. A lot of people are saying that AI is going to create some of that same type of stuff, so that I can tell you in the employment context, there are only 3 or 4 companies that do AI resume screening, and they use almost the same algorithm, and their algorithms are based on the candidates that were denied previously. So if you come from an industry where your ethnic group or your status or class has been traditionally denied access, using an algorithm based on those principles and those ideas will create a recurring story, right? So they had to do a lawsuit to recognize that they had a height restriction for pilots, and they realized that the modern plane had changed so much that the height didn't even matter anymore. That height restriction was keeping women out of the profession of airline pilots. And so without an evaluation of the rules and why the rules exist, AI can take into account things that really discriminate against certain groups of people. And so that will be another factor that people will have to really grapple with if they're willing to try to really diversify the society. But it is definitely moving in that direction because of the fact that the AI will make it seem not biased. People will say, how could I be biased? How could I be racist? How could I be sexist? It was the AI. It was the computer. Right, Chris?
Yeah, but who programs it? Who programs it?
Right. People don't think that.
Creates
So
the
they
system.
say, I have a white friend, so how could I be racist? So those are the hidden hands behind things that will create challenges and problems going forward, and everyone has to be ready for it. But I tell you that please think very long and hard about ways in which you're going to focus yourself on preparing yourself whichever way you want to go, because certainly you're going to be in a position where things are going to be challenging, right? Remember when everybody was supposed to go get a college degree? Now they say, oh, the college degree is not that important. Maybe it's because about who is the highest degree achieving demographic in America. Black women.
There you go.
So the question is, why would you wait until Black women started being the highest degree achieving demographic to now say degrees don't matter?
Right.
Their argument now is we're going to go on skills basis. So people are even revising their resume. Forget about what certifications you have. Forget about what schools you went to, what degrees you have. Let's just list a whole bunch of skills that you supposedly have. To me, that creates a gap for subjectivity. And generally, subjectivity creates familiarity, where people just go with the people that they're most familiar with, and it just becomes a recurring cycle. And so we have to be very careful about that in the future when we get away from it, right? Because I think Martin Luther King and others in civil rights wanted these very objective standards. Isn't it funny? To go to college now, they want to go back to SATs required, right? They don't think that people should be looking at the whole candidate or the whole student to determine whether or not they should get into college, because they argue that there's too many white males who have higher GPAs and higher SAT scores and didn't get in. As if your singing ability, your acting ability, your clubs, your sports ability, your all these other things that go into play, like
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can afford Kaplan to take a test prep course, maybe your chances of getting into the school are better now.
Right,
And those
right.
become the challenges, right? So again, it's when you ask the question about apartheid, think about the things that are separating us now.
Well, we're wrapping up. How can people get in contact with you? Because this is important.
Yes, I'm always willing to sit down with you, and for your audience members,
Yes.
definitely can extend our 15-minute free consultation. You see my phone number down there, 347-586-0555. Once again, you see it there.
Andre used to do this for us where we do a banner, but unfortunately, let me tell you, when he's not here.
Got it.
Yeah. So the number again, please.
The name is Gerald Carr-Currie, ESQ. The phone number is 347-586-0555. So 347-586-0555. And we can discuss getting your trust started, transferring your assets over. We can get that in place, right? Because I think once we get our money right, when we get our safety, like we know our stuff is protected, then we say, okay, now we're going to fight. We're going to fight the U.S. government. We're going to fight Department of Homeland Security. We're going to fight ICE. So we get that together, and then we start to strategize about your asylum claim, appeals, filing for a labor certification, any job sponsorship. Is there an employer who's willing to sponsor you for a job that will help you stay here in the United States? Can you invest $100, $200, $300,000 in a business and get an investor visa for yourself? We can go through the whole gamut after we figure out that, hey, our kids are going to be good. What we've worked for so long is protected, and we're not going to be stuck no matter what happens. I think we're playing with house money then. So I look forward to
Gerald, I know.
You're going to have to come back, because this conversation must continue, especially if you get deported. What happened to those countries? Are they ready for us?
Right. Big conversation. Christopher, you going to say something?
Yeah, Gerald, I was just going to say, and I know I've been super quiet tonight because I've just been listening and trying to absorb as much as I possibly can from you, Gerald. But one of the things that you repeatedly stated over and over again was the importance of being prepared and the importance of having trust set up. And I don't know if you've ever heard me on the radio show before, but I'm always talking about how important trusts are so that while we're alive, we can decide what happens to our assets.
Yes.
Right. We don't want necessarily the court
system.
Right. We don't want the courts. We don't want additional taxation if we can avoid it. We want to pass on as much of our assets as we can to the people that we want to pass them on to.
Man, so let's do what we need to do.
So the how you kept mentioning trusts, I'm totally on board with that.
Right.
It's something that I've been preaching for the last 6 months.
So we need, we need to definitely have you back and just to do a little workshop on this or something like that.
Definitely. How we get that done? Because
yes, we would love to.
We have to. So excellent. Thank
you
so much.
Thank you so much for all the information that you shared with us this evening. Listeners, you know how to reach Mr. Gerald. Please share the wealth of knowledge, share the this actual YouTube video tonight, share it with someone that you know that might have TPS or someone who is afraid. So tell them there's still hope. Fight fight and reach out to people who can protect you. If you didn't get anything out of all that was said, like Chris said, protect your assets, have a plan, make sure you continue to fight, because it's not done until it's done. So thank you, listeners. Thank you, villagers. Thank you, Mr. Gerald, for joining us this evening. Our conversation must continue. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Again, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the education that you went down with us. And we look forward to having you again.
All right. God bless and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right.
Good night. All right, guys. Have
Good
a
night.
good night, and we'll see you next week. Oh, share the number again. It is 347 586 0555. 347 586 0555. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Newspaper ads, social media, all of those things.
Good night. Okay, let's